Welcome students. Welcome to the lecture number 5 of Python Programming Fundamentals. Okay. So in the previous lecture we have seen some operators which is supported in the Python, and those operators are arithmetic operator, relational operator, logical operator, assignment operator, and the membership operator. Okay. So we have learned about all these kinds of operators. Okay. So initially we are discussing a topic named as token, and under token we have studied about the keyword, identifier, and the third one operator. Okay, so we have covered till 3 tokens, right? So in this chapter we are beginning with the fourth token, that is literals. Okay, the fourth number of token is literal. So what is basically a literal? A literal is a constant numeric and non-numeric value assigned to a variable is known as literal. So when we assign a numeric or a non-numeric fixed value to a variable, okay, numeric, like if you are assigning a number 23 or 4.5, so this is basically numeric data. Okay, and non-numeric means if we are assigning some string like suppose A, B, C. Okay, so this is basically a non-numeric data, right? So whatever the numeric and non-numeric data that we are assigning to a variable, that data is called as literal. So what are the types of literal? So for our first one is the integer literal. Okay, so suppose if I have written like this, A is equal to 45. Okay, so what is this 45? This 45 is basically the integer literal, because it is a constant value which I am assigning to the variable A, because while assigning this value to variable A, this value can't be changed. Okay, so we have written 45, that's why 45 is going to be stored in the variable A. So this is a fixed value for the variable A. Okay, so this is an integer value, so that's why we call it as an integer literal. Again we have another literal, that is a string literal. So suppose if I write A is equal to, okay, if suppose I write A, B, C, okay, A, B and C within the double quotes, or if I write like A is equal to, in the single quotes, A, B and C, right? So it doesn't matter if you write in single quotes or in double quotes, but the data, the textual data which I am assigning to a variable, that is basically the string literal. Okay, so what is basically a string literal? It's a collection of more than one characters enclosed within either single quotes or double quotes. Okay, floating point literal. Suppose if I have written like X is equal to 34.5. Okay, so this is basically the floating point literal, because floating point literals, floating point values basically represented by decimal data. Okay, so this is basically a floating point literal that I am assigning to the variable X. Okay, then there is a Boolean literal also. Suppose if I have written like A is equal to true. Okay, so T must be capital for it, then T, R, and other letters must be small. So when I write A is equal to true, then at that time this true is basically the Boolean literal. Okay, so literal are basically the constant values that we are assigning to the variable. So those values which we are assigning to the variable, those values are called as the literals. Okay, so this is our fourth token. Now the last token is basically delimiters. So what is basically the delimiters? These are the symbols. Okay, so delimiters are represented by basically some symbols, and these symbols have some specific meaning in that language. Okay, like I told you that there are some keywords. Okay, each keyword have a specific meaning in that language. Similarly, we have delimiters with us, and under delimiter we have some special symbols, and each symbols are used for a specific purpose in that language. Okay, so these are the symbols that have syntactic and semantic meaning with respect to the programming language. So it means that in that programming language, if we use the symbols under delimiters, okay, the symbols which are included under delimiters, if we use those symbols in our program, then when the Python interpreter see that this symbol is used in the program, then by looking at that symbol he can understand that we have to do particular work. So it means that delimiters basically represent some specific symbols, and each symbols have all a predefined meaning in the language. Okay, that's why we call that each symbol have syntactic and semantic meaning with the programming language. So there are some examples of delimiters that we will use in our programming later on. So there is square bracket, curly brackets, colon, hash. These are some special delimiters in our Python language. Okay, so this is our last token. So we have learned about all the 5 tokens. The first one is the keyword, second is identifier, third one is basically operator, fourth one is a literal, and the fifth one is basically the delimiter. So these are the 5 types of tokens available in the Python language. Okay, now let's move to the next topic, and that is basically input and output statement. Okay, so what happens if we want to take input from a user, right? Let me explain you with the help of some example. Suppose if I want to use a variable a, right, and I want to store some value with this a. The one method is that I will use the concept of assign, right? What I will do, I will use the concept of assign, and by the help of the concept of assign I can associate a particular value with a variable. How? If I simply write a is equal to, suppose over here I written a is equal to 40. Okay, so in this case what will happen, we are assigning the value 40 to the variable a. So when this line execute, what will happen, the 40 value gets stored in the memory. Okay, the 40 value gets stored in the memory. This location has some address, and the a variable basically refer to that location. Okay, or we can say that the a variable refer to that address of this 40. Suppose the address of this location is 12457. So this is the address of this location, suppose. So that's why a is referring to this location where 40 is stored. All right. So but in this case you can see that when I write a is equal to 40, it means a fixed value is stored in the a. But suppose if I want that I will get the value of a from the user. Okay, I want the value of a from the user, but not at the time of writing the program, because I will write this statement in the program now, then only the a will get the value 40 while the execution of the code. So it means I am assigning value 40 during the time period when I write the code. Okay, but if I want that the user will get the value to a during the execution time. Okay, so if I want that the user will set the value for a, but that will be during the execution time. Okay, not at the time of writing the code. Okay, we want that when the user run the program, only at that moment he will give the value of a. But what if I want that the user will give the value of for the variable during the execution of the code, right? Then what will we do in that case? Okay, so I hope you understand that what I am going to say. And moreover, we have already created one program for it, right? Let me just open that program for you also. Just wait. it's ideally Python. Let the interactive mode open. Okay, come on, fast. Yeah, now the interactive mode open, and I will open a file first. Okay. Yes. So we have basically created a file named as program1cs11. Okay, so let me open this file first. Okay, so in this file we have written a program in which A and B are getting some value, that is 40 and 20, and C is basically holding the sum of those two numbers, and then with the help of print we are displaying the value of C. Okay, but suppose if we run that program, then what will happen? We will get the value 60. That's okay. But suppose if I change if someone told me then, okay, find the sum of 39 and 46. Okay, if someone told me then find the sum of 39 and 46, then what I have to do? I have to go to the coding place, then make changes in the value, then after that I will first save the program. Okay, and after saving the program, then I run the program. Okay, then I will get the value over there also. But suppose if the third person told me, okay, then find the sum of 205 and 143, then what I have to do? I have to again go to the code and make changes over here, 205, and over here I will have to write 143. Then again I have to save my code, right? And then I have to run my code with the help of 145. Sorry, with the F5 button. Okay, so now I'm getting the answer as 348. But you know that whenever I want to test this code on different values, then what I have to do? I have to again move to the coding part and write my data in the coding section, right? But I don't want to do that. I don't want that. I have to again always go to the coding part to change my values. I want some other alternative, that when I run this code, can I enter the data during the execution time of the code? Yes. Now the answer is the input and output statement can be used for that purpose. Okay, first we are going to study about the input statement, right? So in Python we have a function named as input, right? So in Python we are going to use a function, and the name of that function is basically input, for taking values entered by the input device such as keyboard. So whatever values entered by the user through the keyboard, this input function fetch those values, capture those values, and store those values in the variable specified by me, right? So the input function, what the input function will do? The input function prompts user to enter data, and it accepts all user input as a string, right? So you can see that in the second point it is written that the input function prompt user to enter data, right? And whatever data entered by the user, the input function will accept that data as a string. Okay, now the syntax for the input function is that first you have to write the variable name, then equal to, then you have to write the input, and within the brackets you have to write this prompt. Now what is this prompt? Prompt is basically the string we may like to display on the screen, right? So let me first show you the working of input function in Python. Okay, so first I will show you through the interactive mode. Okay, suppose I have taken the variable like a is equal to input, right? Enter the number. So you can see that I have written this point that enter the number. So this is basically the prompt. Okay, this message is basically the prompt. So when I press enter, you can see that the same message is displayed to me in the next line, that enter the number, and after the enter the number equal to, the cursor is blinking. So why it is blinking over there? Because it is prompting me to enter a particular value. Suppose I entered the value 78, then press enter, the value of a becomes 78, and if I write a and press enter, you can see that I can get the value as a. But you can see over there the value of 78 is printed, but within the quotes, within the single quotes. And I told you in the string literals that if the value is put inside the double quotes or the single quotes, it is treated as a string literal. Okay, so it means whatever data I have entered through the input function, that data will be stored in A as a string. So what is basically the problem if it store it as a string? Let me give you an example. Suppose if I taken a variable named as age, and I will write input enter your age. Okay, right? So it asks me about the age, and I over there I write 20, right? So no problem at all. But suppose if I want to add 5 years in the age, so I will written age plus 5. Then what will happen? When I press enter, I will get the result as an error. So why we are getting the result as an error? Because over here it is written that age plus 5, type error, can only concatenate string, not int to string. So basically the age, whenever you enter the value 20, this 20 value will be treated as a string and stored in age as a string. So when I am adding a string with an integer value, so obviously this is a mismatch, because age contains the 20 as a string, right? And whereas 5 is basically an integer. So how can I add a string value with an integer value? So that is not possible. So that's why it is showing me an error. So how I can remove this problem? Okay, let me show you that how you can solve this problem. All right. So let me just increase the size of the string. Now after that, what I've written, age is equal to, now I know that when I use the input function, definitely it will take the whatever data I have entered, like input enter your age. So I know whatever data I entered by this input function, this data will be treated as string, because input function accept whatever data entered by the user as a string only. So how we can change it? So you know that we have discussed about some data types. So we have, at that point we have heard about this int class, float class, right? I hope you remember that when we are discussing about the data types. So under numeric data, we have learned that we have integer data with us, floating point numbers with us, and complex number with us. And for integers we have int class, for floating point numbers we have float class, and for complex number we have complex class. So right now I'm using this int, and what I'm doing, I'm writing this whole input function, that input enter your age, within the brackets of the int function. So you can see that all the content which I have written, this is included within the bracket of the int function. This is the opening bracket of the int function, and this is the closing bracket, right? So whatever data entered by the user through input function will be taken as a string, but when this data is passed on to this int function, okay, input accept the data in the string form, but when this data is passed to the int function, that basically converts the type of the data to int. Okay, now let me press enter. Okay, so you can see that over here it is asking me about the age, so I entered 20. So when I press enter, everything is okay, but if I write age plus 20, right, age plus 5, as I have done earlier also, but now at this time if I press enter, I am getting the answer as 25. So no error occur. Why? Because by using this int class, I am converting the data which is entered in the string form into integer form. Okay, so we can use, if we are taking the decimal data, then in spite of int we can use float also. Okay, so in this way the input function can be used. So let me just make some changes in my code, which is I have written over here. So in this, in spite of writing the value, I write int input enter the first number, let me minimize it also, enter the first number equal to, okay, and the same message will be copied to the next one also, but in this case we will write enter the second number. and then C is equal to A plus B and this. I hope it is visible to you. Okay, so we have just changed our program to this one. Okay, so let me run this program and see what will be the result, right? So I press F5, it asks me to save the code. I say okay. Now you can see that it is asking me first thing, enter the first number. So if I entered 52, then he asked me about the second number. I entered 78. Then he asked give me the sum of those two numbers, that is 130. So it means that I don't have to go to the code every time and then change my input data. Whenever I run the code, it will ask me the data during the execution time also. Okay, so this inputting the data from the user during the execution time can be achieved with the help of input function. Okay, so this is basically the input function, right? The input take exactly what is typed from the keyboard, convert it into a string, because input function definitely convert the data into the string, and assign that data to the variable on the left hand side of the assignment operator. Okay, so obviously if I write A is equal to like input, then what will happen? This input function will accept the data entered by the user as a string. Okay, this input function will accept the data entered by the user as a string and assign that data to the variable which is written on the left hand side of the equal to, that is this A. Okay, I hope this last point is clear to you. So this is basically the input function with us. Now after that we have an output statement for us also. The output statement is done with the help of print. You have already seen the print function. Python uses the print function to output data to the standard output device, that is a screen. Okay, right. The function print evaluates the expression before displaying it on the screen. So suppose if we write an expression in spite of a particular word, then what will happen? It basically evaluates that expression and before displaying it on the screen. So what is the basically meaning of this last statement? Suppose if I return print 2 plus 5 plus 6. Okay, so this is an expression which I have sent to the print function. So print function, what will it do? It will basically solve this expression and give me the result. It will not print the expression as it is. Okay, so that's what is shown over here. The print function evaluates the expression before displaying it on the screen. Okay, and the syntax for print is basically the print then the value. Okay, so let me show you that what are the various ways in which we can use the print function. So if you want to print a message, then what we will do, we will simply write print, and within the double quotes I will print the message that hello friends. Okay, so if I write whatever message within the print statement, then when I press enter, obviously the same message will be displayed on the screen. Okay, and suppose if I use the value, taken the variable A and assign value 10 to it, and then if I write print A, then obviously I will get the value of that variable. So what I have seen, that if I write some data within the double quotes in the print function, then what will happen? The print function will print the data exactly on the screen. But if I write a name of a particular variable within the print function, then what will the print function will do? In spite of printing what will it do? It will first evaluate the variable A and find the value of variable A is basically 10, and then it will print the value of A, that is 10, on the screen. Okay, and suppose if I write print, if I want to print both message and the value together, then what will I do? Okay, then within the double quotes I will write the message that value of A is, right? So first within the double quotes I will write the message, then I put comma, and after that if I want to view show the value of A, then I will simply write the name of the variable, that is A. Okay, so in this way if I want to print a message along with a value, then I can do in this way. So you can see that we are getting the answer as value of A is within the space, and that is 10. Okay, I hope it is clear to you that how we can use this print function. So let me use this print function in our code also. So over here I write the first statement, that print welcome, or we write sum of two numbers. So over here we first print the message, that is sum of two numbers, and at the end when we are getting the answer, we will write it like this, the sum of, okay, if I want to print like this, the sum of the value of A and the value of B is this. So what I will do, I will write the sum of, comma, then I want the value of A will be printed, then again comma, and then I want the value of B will be printed, then comma, is, then I want the value of C is to be printed. Okay, so you can see that when we are the first thing is that first I am going to attach a string, that is sum of, right? First this message will be printed, then I am adding this A, so the value of variable A is shown, and after that the another word, that is and, is printed, and then the value of B is shown, then is printed, and then you will get the answer as C. Okay, so let me first run this code so that you also get the clear idea of this code. So over here you can see that let me open the code also, so you can see both the things simultaneously, right? So you can see that first the sum of two numbers is shown, as the first statement is print sum of two numbers, right? Then enter the first number, so I am entering the first number as 45. Okay, then enter the second number, I am entering the second number as 38, and you can see that I am getting the answer as, okay, so how the final output is shown, first the data, the sum of will print exactly as it is, and then the value of variable A is shown, the value of A variable is 45, so you can see that the 45 is shown over there, and then I'm adding a message, that is and, so you can see that and is written over there, and after and I am adding another value, that is B. Okay, so the value of B is 38, and then I am adding a word, that is, so is, and finally the value of C, that is 83. So in this way I can design a message which is appropriate for me by adding both the string and the variables in the print statement. So I hope it is clear to you that how we can use this print function and input function for taking the input and output from the user, right? So in this way we can take the input from the user as well as show the output to the user, right? So I hope that this is clear to you. So that's all for today's class. So just do one thing, just redesign the program, the second program which we have discussed in some previous class, to find the area of a rectangle, okay, in which we have taken length as 10 units and breadth as 20 units. So redesign that program with the help of this input and print function. Okay, so thank you very much and have a nice day.